Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Defion Productions podcast on a special time at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, the 13th. Very spooky because we're living in very spooky times. Lots of things to talk about, lots of macro news to cover in the last 24 to 48 hours. We'll start with the Bitcoin price because the price definitely moved quite dramatically in the last 24 hours because of the things we're going to cover today. Bitcoin, as of this taping right now, is at 105,799.54. Total market cap, a shade over 2.1 trillion. Ethereum sitting at 2,573. Market cap of 310 billion. XRP, $2.14. Solana, $1.47. And everybody's favorite shitcoin, Pi, actually up a little bit at 58 cents. That took a beating yesterday. The total market cap of crypto at 3.29 trillion, making a little bit of a recovery from yesterday. I believe I saw it at the low, about 3.18. Bitcoin got down into, I think I saw 102.9 or 103. It got down to yesterday when we started seeing the news coming out of the Middle East. Fear and Greed Index is at 54. Just a lot of things to really talk about today. So many things. I don't even know if we can pack it all into an hour today, but we're going to do our best. We're going to start with the biggest news, which is the airstrike that happened late last night, our time, early Middle Eastern time, where Israel struck Iran with some missiles, starting some new conflict. Before this taping, I believe within the last couple of hours, Iran retaliated. I saw some images and some videos on X of Tel Aviv getting hit with a barrage of rockets. It looked like the Iron Dome was picking up a lot of them, but it did look like some are making it through, and there was definitely some contact into at least buildings or the ground. All kinds of craziness. It's never good when you got countries in the Middle East sending rockets and missiles at each other. This article that I have up here to go over first is from Mario Narfal on X. This was breaking a couple hours ago. Israel's Rising Lion operation, which is what Israel is calling their operation that they're taking on with Iran, reportedly has killed so far or wounded key figures across Iran's military and nuclear infrastructure. Among the dead, IRGC chief Hossein Salami, Armed Forces head Muhammad Bagheri, and QED's force commander Ismail Qiani. Strikes also eliminated leading nuclear scientists. And I'm not going to keep going through all these names because I'm going to butcher them. And three more unconfirmed. It's got their pictures and what they did and what they were in regards to the military authorities as well as nuclear scientists. There was a picture, I don't know if it's in this thread or not, of the building that they were in. I guess, again, unconfirmed because I don't know this to be complete fact. It's just from stuff that I've been gathering from people that I trust on social media. I guess that there was a meeting that they were lured to, so they were all in like one spot, and then the drone took out that wherever they were meeting at all of these figures at the same time. And when that happened, you literally, if you weren't on X looking at real-time news that was being reported and you were just looking at your coin market cap or your crypto portfolio, you knew something was going on because you were getting alerts. If you own any digital assets, you were getting alerts from your favorite exchanges and platforms that prices were nuking, no pun intended. And you jump on a social media platform and you found out really quickly what was happening and what was occurring, and the unfortunate reality. Well, I'll say unfortunate, but it's a good thing that we have a market like crypto that trades 24/7. It's criminal that equities only trade in these finite hours, Monday through Friday, off holidays, like all these restrictions with the market and being able to get your money out or being able to make these trades in crypto and Bitcoin 24/7, 365. So when these macro events occur, we get to see in real time how the markets react. And, crypto always takes it on the chin first because ironically enough, and me and my producer Rich were kind of talking about this before we went live, these attacks always seem to happen like after US hours. You never get these attacks at like 3:00 in the afternoon on the East Coast time. They're always like after trading hours here in the United States. You can say what you think about that and why that happens, but I'm sure it's not a coincidence. But the crypto market being 24/7, 365, takes the brunt of it, and we get to see in real time how markets react to these types of macro events. I saw this tweet by Mike Alfred, and I thought it was good, and I wanted to share it today on the podcast. Seeing tweets from Americans who live in relative peace and prosperity with many personal freedoms saying they support an oppressive terrorist regime in a part of the world they'd never been to. What happened to these people, and how did they get like that? I don't want to necessarily say I agree with what he said or the side he takes or any of that kind of stuff, but I did find myself earlier today on X watching Tel Aviv, these videos, because you got CNN there, you got Fox News, and you just have regular citizen journalists videotaping from the city now, in real time, watching these rockets come into the city and exploding in the night sky, or actually, hitting targets in the city, in this big metropolis. And it's wild to think of like living here in the United States and being in a major city here at night, enjoying, a nice meal or a walk outside or just hanging out, and all of a sudden looking in the sky and seeing rockets blowing up and, a place getting bombed. It's something that, fortunately up until this point, at least in my lifetime, that we haven't had to really deal with here outside of 9/11 and, planes going into the towers and all that came with that. But, a city being bombed by missiles and rockets and stuff like that, thus far, knock on wood, who knows what the future holds. We haven't really experienced that. So it's just wild as an American that's never been overseas to see that and to take a step back and take that in. It's always just crazy to think that there's people living in parts of the world that, that's part of just what they deal with. And I don't know, Rich, this is kind of a good time for you to maybe chime in on that. I don't know what your thoughts are when you see things like that, but to me, that's kind of what I think of and I gravitate to, is just like how that's like, at least in Israel, the last 2 years, I would say, a year and a half, maybe even longer. Like that's just kind of like what they deal with there.
Israel, full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of Israel. It's frustrating to me because, they want all the sympathy, and they've been indiscriminately bombing non-military targets for a couple of years themselves. So
yeah, even with
I don't want to,
with that stance though, you can.
But I feel bad for the people.
That's what I was going to say. The government and the people. Yes.
And I feel the one thing that I'll say, like, so last week we also had, the Ukrainians going in behind the lines and bombing sites in Russia. And what I don't say I liked it, but what I respected about what Ukraine did is they went after military targets. They went after air bases and things like that. To Israel's credit, they seem to be going after mostly military targets. They're not going after residential things. Iran is just shooting rockets because they're shooting 100 rockets. They said it was over 100 rockets they sent towards Israel, and the Iron Dome covered 90-something% of them. So they estimated 6 or 7 rockets, whatever it was, got through. And they always say that the Iron Dome is 92 to 95%.
Rockets are going to get through it, unfortunately. Yeah.
That's and they do. And to the credit of that country, they also train their folks. A lot of people were told they were alarms. There's a bombing alarm. It's kind of like the hurricane alarm if you live in a place where you hear there's a tornado alert. You go. They know that where to go. There's places they can go.
Shelter in place orders. Yeah.
So hopefully, folks, very few, citizens were injured, but I don't think we know yet.
And unfortunately, I don't know if we'll ever know for sure what the true information is. But I kind of reiterate, I support, or whatever the word is, some of what you said. Israel as a government and what they do ideologically, I don't necessarily get down with, and I obviously don't get down with the shit that happened on October 7th.
Of course,
I also don't get down with the stuff that Iran does. However, the people in Gaza, the people in Israel, and the people in Iran, the regular people, they got to deal with the terror and the fear of like rockets and all this stuff that happens. Like that sucks, man. Like I can't even imagine. Like like think about our country here. Like I think we forget, and we shouldn't. Like you forget that you hate China. Like that's we're supposed to hate China. We hate Russia. We hate Iran. It's like not every single person in those countries are like gung ho for what those countries do. It's like here right now we have a president, right, that half the country despises. Right. So these other countries that hate us because of Trump, half the country here kind of agrees with them. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like every single person in all these countries that are quote unquote our enemies think the same way as the governments do.
I feel very bad for the Palestinian people. They've, because of the organization that runs their country. I feel bad for Iranian people because they have a terribly run government. I feel that bad. I think I've met people from Russia, and I think they're wonderful people. I'm not a real fan of their government, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in Europe that think Americans are okay, but they're not very fond of our government. I am able to separate. I think that's what most people can't do. When you started to say that we're taught like China's the enemy. No, the Chinese aren't our enemy. Like the Chinese governments are the people that like. I feel bad for the people that are stuck in North Korea. Like I don't blame the average person and mom and dad trying to raise their kids in poverty in North Korea. But I know where we're headed with this is that this is all games. This is all games that these governments are playing with lives and money and resources, and instead of just they said today on the radio, it's just all of it that they did. Both Israel and Iran both did this, so they can both look stronger when they go back to the negotiating table. That's what this is all about. They're just trying to say, well, look what we do. What could I do? It's all negotiation for when they know they're going to have to go back and sit down. It's all about what they can negotiate whether it's about the nuclear weapons or whatever it is, the sanctions and all that stuff. That's what this is all about. It always is.
Yeah, it's when you're an investor, and then this is a Bitcoin finance podcast. When you're an investor, you have to really be very cautious with the times that you're in, and the times that we're in now. We have these conflicts that are occurring in different parts of the world. We've had the Israel and Gaza thing going on for almost 2 years now. We've had the Ukraine and Russia thing going on for 3 years now. There's always the threat with China. At least we're told that Russia's not our best friend right now either. And, these all these things. And then to top that off, like here in our country, we have this stuff going on in our cities now, like LA, like we're going to talk about in a second, with illegal immigrants coming here, and these battles that are being fought in our cities on a much different scale, obviously, than what's going on in the Middle East. But it rattles markets. It creates uncertainty, and it creates fear and uncertainty, and all that kind of stuff can temper asset prices, and it makes investors shaky, and it makes markets shaky, and the algorithms that we have now built into these markets don't like that. So
what the sad thing is, and what we know, is that you and I, the average guy, we don't know. We just have to wait and see what happens. Where there are a lot of people that made a lot of money because they already knew that this shit was going to happen, and they did the things they were allowed to do, whether they're a politician or the president of a company or some city planner, whatever it is. Like, there are people that are much richer than us that are behind this, that are connected to people behind the scenes, and whenever this stuff happens, those people always seem to be okay.
Well, Trump said that, and I don't think he has any reason to really lie about it. He probably should be privy to it, but he said that he knew days in advance that was going to be, that strike was going to happen. So if Trump knows, people in the circle know. Yeah. And we saw what happened around the tariff stuff. We saw unusual activity happening on certain indexes and exchanges for certain stocks that were being, bought up or shorted or long. Weird stuff was happening like right at the perfect time that events were occurring. So, I mean, people can take that information, and they can, like, guys like me and you don't have access to that. Like, we don't find out until we look on X or social media. By then it's too late. Like, if you know something's going to happen an hour before it happens, and you can make a bet based on that information that you have, man, that's how fortunes are made. That's how, you know, lives can be changed based on that type of stuff. And it's a shame that stuff happens, but it's just a factor of life here. We can go to this next story because I kind of prefaced it going in. I want to show this video really quick. And before I do, I want to say a couple of things. The only thing I've really seen so far, there's a little bit longer of a video, but I haven't seen like the start of this. I haven't seen a video of the very start of this presser all the way through. I'm just basically everything I've seen is kind of catching when this event kind of happens. But I want to play the video first before we talk about like what happened in the aftermath of what happened, and let the viewers, for anybody that hasn't seen it, see this 20-second clip that's, you know, gone viral online, and allow the viewers to watch it. And then me and you can kind of like talk about what we think about it, or what our feelings are. And then also what the ramifications have been because of that, and how others have chose to use their platforms to speak on it. So I'll play it really quick.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty? How they have been targeted?
All right, you can hear in the video, and obviously at the top of the video, it says that's Senator Alex Padilla. He is from California. So he's a senator from that state. That was a news conference by I forget her first name. Nome is the Christine Nome was doing the press conference, and he barges into the press conference and starts shouting, and the law enforcement that was there basically detained him. And again, I don't know how it started. I don't know if he was there the whole time or he just came. That stuff I don't know. But what has been bothersome to me after the fact, and you can take a look at this right here. I'm not going to play this video, but I want the viewers to kind of see this. So it's a Democratic news site, but Pete Buttigieg makes mention to the fact that the senator was arrested, and the senator himself said he wasn't, and Kristi Noem said that he wasn't, and the law enforcement agency said he was just detained. And there's another video that's a little bit longer of him being on the ground, actually being handcuffed. So he was handcuffed. So this is the kind of stuff that and this is why I'm more so why I'm talking about this than if Alex Padilla was right or wrong, if the cops were right or wrong. We can talk a little bit about that, and that's less important to me and why I'm bringing it up than what this is right here. Because here you have somebody that's been a part of government. He was in the last administration's cabinet. He's held a high position of power. He has a large following. He has a voice. People listen to him. People follow him, and people believe what he says. And he's literally posting something that's not real, that did not happen. Okay? He was detained, but he doesn't say that. He says arrested. There's a huge difference between being detained to calm the F down and get the hell out of a room where somebody's trying to do a press conference in front of news media, than actually taking the guy to jail, booking him, and him having to show up in front of a judge for something that happened in that room, which is not what happened. Two completely different things. So now,
to be fair, you know, they all lied too, though, because on the other side, Chairperson Norm said like he never identified himself. He clearly identifies himself in the video. What's his face? Johnson, he says he made up a lie. They're all making up lies. Every single one of them is taking this, and they're not addressing, to be honest, the only one out of all of this that I didn't, I don't know the senator at all. I haven't heard of him. I've heard of all these people. But, you know, he said he tried to say this wasn't about him. He doesn't care. He was just trying to say, like, he didn't feel this appropriate because he was in the building for another meeting. The director of the Social Secret Service was like, well, you know, we thought maybe he was attacking. They knew who he was. Do we believe for a second they don't know? He had to go through. The guy's in the building. He's wearing a shirt that says he's a senator. He's saying he's a senator. Like, there's no way he had a web. It just they all turn these things in both sides into what the optics they want it to look
You
like.
want to hear my opinion on that? I agree with everything you said, and I think that that's fair. But to me, I don't think it matters. Why does he get? Why if I went in the room because I think I have if I felt how he felt. Okay, let's pretend I'm on his side. Right. I'm not going to say if I am or I'm not. I'm just going to play the role of being on his side. If I'm an angry citizen who whatever he was saying feels exactly how he feels, and I come into that room and do what he did, I'm getting the same treatment.
What we don't know, and I don't know if we will know, is how long was he in the room? And
Good question. Fair.
Before that,
fair.
And I want to know: was he in the back and he started asking questions? And what was the interaction? And no one. And if you look at that footage, you can see to the left. There's like a ton of people with cameras. There's like 20 people at least with cameras to the left.
I'd love to see a longer version.
None of those people that were there are saying, this is what I witnessed, and the hearings will be a joke. So it's just going to be one of those things that everybody's going to make their hay out of it. And I would like to know, did he start asking questions and she chose to ignore him, or did she give a wink and a nod to her guys to get? I don't know. I'm not accused. I'm making stuff up. We don't know.
Here's the thing, though. Like, look what spawned from this. So it's fair. I'm not saying this to be 100% because I don't know. Right. It would be stupid to say that. But it's fair to make an assumption that part of the reason why he was doing what he was doing was because he knew this would happen.
Possibly. I will admit that politicians will do that.
Because I could show you.
She's pretty. If she knew, she said she didn't know who he was. He's on the committee. He has tried to reach out to her. She's saying that I never got, like, they're all
I don't believe her. I don't believe her, but the cops that are there, I wouldn't know if any of the senators outside of Schumer, because he's a piece of shit and I know his face, but if any of the representatives from New York were, I would give you an example. I was at a baseball game last night and 2 county legislators from Niagara County were at the game, and I had no idea to tell me that they were there. And again, that's a much lower scale than a senator or a congressman, but I don't think it's irrational to think that a law enforcement guy.
Until we know the context of how long was in the meeting, did he start? Was this the very beginning of the press conference? Like, we just don't know.
The cops were doing their job. He was pressing forward, which he was out of bounds for, in my opinion. He was speaking, and they came in front of him, and he pushed forward. Once he did that, I think the cops were well within the right to remove him from the room. They didn't arrest him. They did to him what they would do to anybody else, which I think is good. I don't want anybody to get special privilege. If they're going to handcuff me on the ground, you handcuff anybody on the ground. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
The counter to that is if it was just a reporter that started asking you questions, what's the accountability on that? Like, clearly, this is a federal building. Nobody had a weapon. You're not getting in with a weapon. Like, this wasn't in front of like a store. Like, that's why I just don't have a lot of faith in anybody. I think a lot of these people are bad players. Let's put it that way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
The problem is they're all going to
100%.
Many of them are very happy that this happened. Those folks are very happy that it happened.
You want to know the crazy part? I think both sides are happy that this happened because it gives the opportunity to say, look at these.
They're probably mad that Israel went and bombed Iran because guess what? As soon as
it's not the story anymore.
This story was over. Like, people are still talking about it, but like that. And we started to talk a little bit about conspiracy theories a little bit before this. I'm a big wag the dog thing, and if people know what that is, it's a book. There's a movie. I think like John Travolta plays like a Bill Clinton ripoff, and I think the idea is that like the concept is that presidents and governments will start wars when there's a big something going on to distract you from like an affair or something like that's happened, and so the phrase is called wag the dog. So like quite often I think our officials will do things to distract from a story. Like they'll go and they'll do something, whatever it may be, because they don't like the narrative that's in the media. So they're like, we've got to change the narrative. And I think like yesterday, man, there was like 5 or 6 different dogs getting wagged yesterday. It was crazy.
I know. We're talking about this senator getting detained in a meeting that was talking about what was actually happening, which are these quote unquote riots that are happening, which is because of the immigration. It's like these different layers of things that are happening. And here we are talking about this senator from California who got detained by cops because he was
Instead
mad.
of like a child that got detained or a migrant worker.
No, instead of having the conversation about like, what are we doing about immigration? Because I don't know if you heard today, and I really quick, I'll talk about this. And I was just like, I threw my hands up when I heard this quote by Trump. And this is why, like, I'm sorry, I called it, and I'm just going to stand by it. Like, you're not getting what you think you got with Trump. Whatever the MAGA thinks they got with Trump, you didn't get it. I'm sorry, you didn't get what you thought you got. And if it's not completely clear now, I don't know when it's going to be. But he literally was talking about. They were asking him about farmers. Because farmers are complaining about the fact that these illegal immigrants that are being taken out of the country is basically their workforce. Right. And Trump acquiesced and said, it's not fair to the farmers that they're losing their workforce and we have to do something. And he said something that I took a step back.
Ice to the farms.
He said something, I know I did, but he said something that was very un-Trump-like. When he said it. I was listening to live radio and I wish I could turn it back and listen again. But he said, we have to do something that makes common sense. Right. He literally said makes common sense.
He said,
and when he said that,
people have been here for 20 years.
When he said that, I'm like, you are just literally making the argument that the Democrats make, yes. and it's not a bad one, yes. In regards to like if somebody's been here for 20 years and they're participating in society.
You have to be careful about who we're taking too. Was hotel staff.
The
tweet that, or whatever he calls it, on
Truth Social.
Truth, was that something about like hotel workers, because I guarantee you these corporations are calling him up his people and saying like, man, we can't clean these hotels, we can't pick strawberries in California, and we because they're afraid, not either they're being detained or they're afraid to go to work.
He underestimated the industries that would be impacted by changing immigration laws because his MAGA base hung on to that immigration thing like a flag and stuck it in the ground. And Biden fumbled it so bad on the opposite end by just letting every single person in. There's a happy medium between letting everybody come in here and then sending everybody out. Can't we do something in the middle where it's like we just do what he said? Yeah. Literally, I'm going to quote Trump because I agree with what he said. Common sense immigration policy.
Sense. Like there was a story where it was a woman from Kansas or something. She's from China originally. And her children were here. She's been here for 20 years. She's the waitress in this town or something. This is one of those stupid stories.
Yeah, that's almost completely made up, but yeah, sure.
It probably is. But there is that person that probably has been. Yeah. And it's like, and everybody's like,
it's probably a caricature of like 5 or 6 different people.
We want like the guys that are in like the gang. But regardless, I still believe we should follow due process. Obama threw a lot of people out of this country. I think he threw out more than anybody. And there were some criticisms of how he did it, but his numbers exceeded everybody's. And I think why Trump has been going after, the people that he hired, they're not getting enough bodies for him. I think he doesn't like the stats, so that's why the Los Angeles thing happened, because he's trying to bump up his numbers. But then they went really off script and started going to schools, and they were going to the weird go into the we don't want to go into where we think the gangs are, because we're going to go to the farms, we're going to go to the Home Depot parking lot.
The ironic part.
I want due process. And if the courts can't handle it, well, then we need to get more courts. We can't just put people in a barge and send them back to wherever, because we don't even know.
The scary part is this whole ICE immigration thing is targeting Latinos and Mexicans and all that kind of stuff. And this is just my point of view, and I've had conversations with some of my friends talking about this too. The biggest threat that happened in those 4 years weren't Mexicans coming over here. It was the fact that we had an open border, and it was people from Iran that were coming through here, or people from the Middle East that have ill intentions to do bad things to us. Those are the ones, not Jose or Pedro that's working at some farm that's been doing it for 15 years, providing for his family and is a productive citizen. Like, that's not the ones we should be really going after. I mean, obviously, yeah, if somebody's here and they've committed a plethora of crimes and they're an illegal, like, get them the hell out of here. I get that.
You know, one of the biggest fans of amnesty was. Which president was more interested in amnesty than any other president?
Was it Obama or was it Clinton?
No, Ronald Reagan.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Oh, my God, you're right. You're right. You're right.
So you can be.
You're right.
Because you know what it was? To back what you said, quoting the president, it was common sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't just. It was trying to be a halfway decent person. It also made him look good, so that he wasn't kicking out just migrant farmers. And also it wasn't practical. It was easier to get them to come in and register and give them a fine or whatever they did in '86. Then they weighed it. We can't catch everybody. Like, we have to find a way. And he, and I'm on. I mean, that was one of the things that we've gotten away from. Go after like criminals. Like, and again But you know what I don't see too? How come none of the people that run these companies are ever arrested? They know who they're hiring. How come none of these presidents of these companies that clearly know that they're hiring a ton of illegals, and we were shocked. We were shocked that we were hiring. Come on, like what? Nobody ever goes after.
Yeah,
find the company that's.
But it's not.
This.
They're not companies though. These farmers are like mom and pop farmers.
Well, there's a lot of
and
farms in California.
There are, but I mean the mom and pop ones.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating to arrest them, but those are the ones that are the easiest ones that you could penalize for doing so. But
No,
we're
but
not.
I mean, like, you go into like, MGM hotel.
Sure.
I mean, how many people are working in their hotels?
Sure.
You lived in Vegas. I've been to Vegas 100 times. There's a lot of people there that I have suspect that probably they may have a green card, they may be citizens, they may not be, but I think there's probably a high percentage of people working in that industry in Las Vegas, in that support industry for the casinos, that probably aren't citizens. But they never ever go after the guy in charge. They always go after the guy who's making $8 an hour.
The other thing too, like I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about the stuff going on in Israel and Iran. The other thing that I was thinking of too, the other thought that I had outside, like after I got over the human aspect of like seeing both countries, the carnage that happened with bombs and stuff like that. It's the thing that we always say as Bitcoiners, change the money, change the world. These bombs that are worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. And like tonight, watching the sky light up in Israel, Iran sending literally in just one picture frame was probably tens of millions of dollars worth of bombs. If you have sound money that's backed by a hard asset, that means that your supply is more finite and you can't just throw off 100 bombs to another country because you need to hold on to those because you don't have the money behind to just print to keep doing that. So when we as Bitcoiners bring up the fact of money being broken and the ability to print to infinity, these kind of forever wars that we get caught up in that just like never stop and you bomb here, you bomb there, it's because the money's fake.
What you said, and that was, I liked your post, and I think it was, I don't remember where I saw it. Was it Instagram or X or wherever it was? And you said, fix the money. What was it?
Change the money, change the world.
Change the money, change the world. And I think like ultimately, like in a great way, like that's the dream. That a lot of these things could be addressed if we just had some common sense and we recognized what we're doing. Like that we're allowed, like this stuff is all about like, why does Israel want to drop these bombs? Because they want to protect their borders and all this stuff, but also because like they want to show that force. And why does the United States support them? Because we want to sell them more weapons. Like we want them to drop those bombs, and we're so shocked that they did it. But we want them to replenish their stock. We know that there's a lot of money in war, like and in these attacks, and. That's why the United States is how much did we add to the defense budget this year?
We're going to be over.
They added 100.
It was like 160 billion.
Yeah,
160 billion extra. We're going to be over. What is it? $1 trillion? Now for the first time ever.
I've seen some reports of retired generals and stuff saying that's not the stuff we need anymore. We need stuff. We don't need this and this big. Like, we need to be able to figure out. We need the equipment that can take down the $100 drones that everybody's using, because that's the stuff we're going to need in 20 years. That's how they're going to attack us in 20 years. And I think, unfortunately, it's not going to be like a rocket. It's not going to be an airplane. It's going to be what happened in Russia, last week, and what happened in Iran.
You want to know something that's Matrix level scary that people just aren't ready to like wrap their head around? The richest person in the world is not Elon Musk, and the most powerful person in the world is not Donald Trump. We don't know the names of those people. The real people that call the real shots, we don't know who they are. Whatever you want to call it, like the deep state, the cabal, whatever names, whatever the hell these people, whatever you want to associate, like that is a fact. Like Elon Musk, you think that the Elon Musk at 250 billion or 60 billion or whatever the hell, you think he's the guy that's the richest guy in the world? Absolutely not. Elon Musk may have a lot of power. He doesn't have the power. Donald Trump may be the president of the United States and be like the most powerful leader, but he's done in 2028. Right. So he for sure doesn't have the role of being the most powerful man in the world. These people that really control things, that really have the wealth and the power, we don't know their names. Some people suspect who some of these people may be, but we don't know who those people actually are. And those are the people that coordinate everything behind the scenes that make sure everybody stays in line.
Stuff. And that's like a lot of movies that address this, and like big corporations and that really are this stuff. And again, because it really is about how the money changes hands. It really is how the money changes hands.
Let's play this video really quick. It's pretty funny, if you ask me. It says millennials living through 2 economic recessions, 9/11, a pandemic, a possible World War III, jobs replaced by AI, and a biggest crash in the history before they hit age 42. So let's play this really quick for our viewers.
Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
I had a meeting with a client in my day job this week who is he graduated the same year I did, 96. So he has the same basic timeline that I do. Graduated college, early 2000s, started his work career, and has been working straight through. And we were like half joking, but like half joking, half crying about the fact that like as soon as we graduated from college, which was 2000, we literally like walked right into 9/11. Right? Like start our work career. Ooh, hey, let's start saving money. And then boom, 9/11 happens. Right? Then we get past 9/11, like 2002, 2003. We're like, okay, let's start building again. Boop, 5 years later, 2008 happens. We're like, damn. Get some momentum again, have the best market ever in the history of anything. They're throwing money in injecting liquidity. Things are going great. And then all of a sudden we see 2020 and the pandemic and everything shuts down. And for 3 days, they hit the circuit breakers and it looked like we're going to go through another 2008. And then we saw basic liquidity on steroids. And we didn't see the big event we had in 01 and 08 in the stock market per se. But instead of experiencing the stock market decline, we saw our buying power just get eviscerated. And we sat there and we're just like, man, like 2000 was 25 years ago. And we saw 3 major economic events occur in our lifetime. And this is 2 days before the Middle East is almost at World War III again. So it's like we've seen so many things happen.
It's really like, it's funny when you talk to younger people. I'm a retired teacher, most everybody knows who watches this. So I still talk to a lot of my alumni that are in their 20s and, maybe a lot of them are in their 30s now. And if their attitude for some of these things is like they're some of them were in school. They remember 9/11. And then they don't understand the stock market crash of 2008 and the housing crash and all that stuff, but they certainly know the pandemic. And now they're trying to they don't understand
Why they can't buy a house?
Why financially it's so difficult for them, and even why salaries are stagnant and interest rates. Everything that hurts them is, salaries
Ties back to the money.
It's
Ties back to broken money.
Inflation's high. Everything the worst case scenario of what you would want when you're in your 20s trying to start your career, maybe 30s, getting married or whatever, and trying to start a family. Everything that you would not want to have is what they're up against.
We're going on almost 100 years since the Great Depression, and this is definitely the first generation since the Great Depression in that is going to do worse than their parents did.
For sure.
Hands down.
Not all of them, but a higher percentage.
The median will. The median will.
I'm sure you look at charts and stats all the time, and I think they said it was normally it's I forget the number. Normally they say 70% of the next generation does better than their parents. I think the number was 70. I'm sure I'm getting the number wrong. But now they're saying that the percentage is under 50.
Oh, for sure.
Whatever
for sure.
It was a 20 to 30 point decline.
Sure.
From where it should be, and then while you're looking at that, all the, whether it's there's so many things that cause it, but it all starts with, and I don't know, I think it started in the 70s. It started with getting off the gold standard. It started with so many things that have gotten us here.
1971, we get off the gold standard. The president that gets us off the gold standard has a scandal, doesn't make it through office, right? We get to the end of the 70s and we have a crisis that has a lot to do with the fact that the money got broken. Right. So then all chaos breaks loose with the oil and all this shit, the embargoes and stuff.
The 70s were also the growth of OPEC and the oil
coincided.
Stuff,
coincided with that.
Suddenly oil became this big commodity, and all of a sudden the prices went up.
Because people were looking to store their money, store their value in something that had value, store their wealth in something that had value. And the dollar no longer had that because it was backed by anything. So they started looking for other assets. So then oil comes into that.
The Saudi royal family, it's not like the English royal family. They just kind of became the royal family. They're not right?
The United States was literally a big. If you look back at how everything happened in Saudi Arabia with Saudi Aramco, I did a deep dive on Saudi Aramco because I remember when I first started paying attention to the stock market 15-ish years ago, and you were talking about the big corporations and companies that were worth all this money here. Before we had a $1 trillion company in the United States, there was rumors that that Saudi Aramco, when it went public, if it ever went public, would have been the first $1 trillion company and corporation. I'm like, Saudi Aramco, what the hell is Saudi? I didn't really understand and know. And then I started to deep dive and figure out what Saudi Aramco was and how it started and what all the people, the United States was a 50-50 partner in Saudi Aramco way back in the 70s and 80s. We had a big piece of that.
Was that partially because of the political unrest that happened in Iran? Because obviously we used to buy a lot of oil from Iran because that's where we propped up the Shah of Iran, and for all those years that we had a presence in Iran, obviously that all fell apart in 79 or whatever that was.
They have so much money in Saudi Arabia that there's literally, it's stalled now. The project's stalling, but they started to do construction. They want to build a city that's like a wall. And it's basically you can look this up online. I forget the name of it, but it's a city that's it reminds me of the Great Wall. I got to look it up and see what it looks like. But it's compacted, and it's going to go across the whole belly of Saudi Arabia. That's their goal. It's like a 25 trillion. It's some astronomically ridiculous number, but they have so much money that was MBS. I believe it's MBS, right? Mohammed bin whatever, that Salam, whatever. His big idea and his big goal was to create this city that the world would be in awe of. That was basically this small compacted area where they would be like communities along these whole things where they never have to leave, go to the other parts of the country. Everything they need would be inside this like little mega city protected by walls and all this crazy stuff. And that's how much money they got. Like they're just doing this crazy, like
Crazy ideas that
crazy off the wall ideas and shit because they just have so much money. But like getting back to the original idea, concept I was talking about in regards to like the money in 71, then we have that, the crisis of the late 70s. And then, Carter walks into all that mess. Reagan comes in. He's got to fix the interest rates. He's got to attack inflation. We go on this run that Clinton picks up after we have that little gap with Bush. Clinton comes in. We got this surplus. Tech starts to take off. The internet starts to take off. And then we ramp up because we make this decision somewhere along the way that real estate's going to be a place that we store our money. Instead of just being a place to live, it's going to be a place where people park their money. So then those asset prices inflate. We walk into 08. 08 happens. The housing market. It's supposed to be the time that we hit the reset button. That's supposed to be the Great Reset. But instead of it being the Great Reset, we avoid that because everybody in power doesn't want to be associated legacy-wise to that. So we stave off that. We print money, the TARP plan and all that. At the time, it's $789 billion. He thought that was crazy. They hold that off. Then they realize that injecting liquidity into these assets is great for all these corporations, great for all these CEOs. They're like, hey, don't turn that off. Keep that going. We keep that going. We try to turn it off in 2018, 2019. Powell says, hey, maybe it's time to like end the party. We start to do it. Things start to get crazy, and we go back to close to zero again. Then we walk into the pandemic. Pandemic happens, we go right back to zero, and we just flood the economy with 40% of the money that's ever been printed in history. And then here we are with this craziness of the money being so broken, being in a place where this generation that's in their 20s and 30s can't afford a home. People are barely getting by with their groceries. You said it. Wages are stagnated. People are trying to figure out, how do I outpace this craziness that's occurring? And in 2009, we have Bitcoin created on the crest of the great financial crisis. And we see this asset slowly build up to something that's worth six figures now. And you have guys like me and other people, on the internet talking about this asset basically sucking in the value of the rest of these shit assets that people are putting their money in. And at some point in time being worth $1 million, $10 million and beyond. And people are just like, well, how does that happen? And it's like, well, look how we got here. The money's broken. I mean, that was a very quick crash course into what's been going on, but
so obviously, like, I'm an outsider and I'm more of an insider now. But like, one of the things that it's funny because I go places and I tell people about my building and my studio, and I got a Star Wars pod and I got a Bitcoin pod and a Bitcoin, and I'm like, yeah, it's an interesting thing. That's the one that people tend to stop me on more than any of them is the Bitcoin pod. And then I end up trying to like quote you, and I'm like, and I've said this before, and I said it on our interview that I did with you, and it's like, it's just, it came out of the need we have for people and for just regular folks looking at the system and saying, how do we fix the system? And if I can't fix the system for everybody, can I fix it for the people that are smart enough to participate in this?
Yep.
And that was kind of how I describe it. And I'm like, I go, and there's a big difference. I go between Bitcoin and then most of the other shit coins. I go, I think there's some other coins that are legit. I go, I'm certainly not. But most of them I think are really just scams. And what people don't seem to understand, and everybody listening, watching this knows this, is that you gotta do your homework and find out which ones are the ones and really understand which ones are the ones that are worth your time. And I said to someone, well, it's all a scam. I go, then everything's a scam. Then I go, then if you're saying the growth of something that's been around since 2008, I go, is growing, and that's still, if that to me is beyond scam time period. Time period is not, what are we at, 17 years? Like that's tough for me. I go to believe it's a scam. I go, if you want, I think if you think like I think my 403B is a scam. When somebody to try to move some of my money, and it was like, how dare me try to move.
When somebody hits you with it's an easy argument to have with somebody when they give you the scam for Bitcoin. Ask them to explain to you how the dollar works. Don't say it's a scam. Just say, can you explain to me how the dollar works?
Right.
And if they can't, tell them, look up how the dollar works, look how dollars are created. Come back after you find that information out and tell me if that doesn't sound like a scam.
Well, so the scene that I always tell people to watch from a movie is the scene where it's from Miracle on 34th Street. It's a remake, and like they want to put the guy who thinks that he's Santa in a sanitarium.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody brings the judge a dollar, and it says on the dollar, "In God We Trust," and the judge needs an out to not send the guy who thinks he's Santa or is Santa, you're supposed to believe he's Santa,
right,
to jail. And he says, well, if the United States can put its faith in a mythical creature who we can't prove exists and base our money on it, and we can print it on our money, then we can believe in Santa Claus. So, New York City believes in Santa. It's a great scene. But if the concept is, again, I think a lot of people are putting their faith in the American dollar like it's Santa Claus. Like that's the irony, is that if you reverse that scene, that we think that our dollar is based on something, it's based on the strength of the United States. But if the United States economy is in the toilet because we have $25 trillion or whatever we're going to be up to debt, 40 whatever we're going to be up to in 5 years, whatever we're forecasted, and our GDP's in the toilet, and interest rates are killing us, how is that dollar worth anything? Like, that's why other countries are starting to look at other currencies instead of ours.
I have a better one for you the next time somebody calls it a scam. Ask them if they ever bought a house before. If they tell you yes, ask them if they knew that before they took the check from the bank, the minute before that check was issued to them, do they know that the money did not exist before that moment? If they tell you that it existed,
I think
ask them to look that up. Ask them to look that up. Ask them to look that up for verification if the money existed prior to the moment they took that bank out.
It's not like, so when you and I, we can't, when we go to the bank and we get the check. I love this, by the way. This is great. Mm-hmm. I will use this. This is genius, because I go to the bank and I got to go to the realtor. I got to bring it to whatever.
All the steps you got to go through.
And they're not going to give me the keys, so I fill out all that paperwork and I hand them the check.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I can't write that check until I got the check from my loan mortgage guy, my bank, whatever, and put it in my account. But they didn't move any money to write that check. They literally just wrote the check. It's
called fractional reserve banking. The bank is allowed. And here's the idea. Rich.
I've never thought of that.
Rich, here's the idea of how it's supposed to work.
If that doesn't tell you that what a scam everything is, that's the scam.
Here's what the bank is supposed to do. In 30 years, when you pay off that mortgage, they collect all the payments that you made, so the interest is what goes onto their balance sheet, and they zero out. Let's say you bought a house for $100,000. You pay 30 years and you pay them $220,000. Right. $120,000 is what they make in the bank, and they're supposed to zero out the $100,000 that they gave you, because when they gave it to you, it didn't exist.
Right.
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not a scam?
Yeah, well, people.
It's a legalized scam. It's a scam the government is allowed to do.
When you're out in a bar or something, they're like, "Oh, how much is your house worth on Zillow?"
Sure.
That's a conversation people have all the time. I'm like, my wife's big. Oh, I'm like, are we selling? She's like, no. I said, I don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't care what my Zillow estimate is, because I'm not selling my house anytime soon. I know that's a fake amount. It's not a real amount. Like, you can tell me I have a baseball card from 1950 of Mickey Mantle or whoever. Sure, I can go somewhere and sell it probably. But just because somebody tells me on eBay that's what it's worth, or online, it doesn't mean it's really. And again, that money is coming from somebody.
There has to be a buyer on the other side of the sale for it.
There's somebody that want, and that's what I say. Like, just because there's a Zillow estimate, and they're basing it on a formula because this house over here and this house over there sold. I go, maybe our house is worth more, because maybe we'll get into a bidding war for our house if we wanted to sell it.
While we're on the topic of real estate, I'll read this real quick. Sell all your real estate, buy Bitcoin. Real estate investing is taking out a $700,000 mortgage at 7% interest to buy a rotting drywall sarcophagus in a collapsing suburb, paying 12% to a guy named Ricky who responds to tenant complaints with, I don't know, and calling yourself a genius because Zillow hallucinated a $3,000 gain. You spend weekends fixing toilets, praying interest rates go down, and pretending cash flow negative is a tax strategy. Meanwhile, Bitcoin sits in cold storage, unbothered, untaxed, unrotting, devouring the global financial system like an elegant, silent virus. Buy Bitcoin, torch the duplex, reclaim your soul.
We're not advising you to burn your house
not financial
or your
advice.
properties down.
We'll do a couple more before
That's really,
we jump out of here. Wolf of All Streets. This was breaking news the last couple of days. Amazon and Walmart are exploring launching their own dollar-backed stablecoins. That's pretty big news.
What does that mean?
That means that they'll have like a stable coin that you can transact with. PayPal has their own stable coin right now. PayPal has a stable coin on the PayPal app that you can use to transact with. If Amazon and Walmart were to do that, that means that you could buy the Amazon and Walmart stable coin and use that to buy goods and services in app without actually transferring back and forth. It'll settle immediately.
Does its value...
Nope, pegged to the dollar, 1-to-1.
So an Amazon buck...
It's extremely beneficial to Amazon and Walmart. It settles immediately.
It's like bartering. Because it's like what would you have to do? Like, would you have to put in? You would have to buy
$20 worth, and then you have
It's kind of like Easy Pass.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Yep.
Because the Easy Pass doesn't have any money on it. It has tokens built into it that you've pre-purchased.
And we'll talk about this real quick. The world's first Ethereum treasury just collapsed. So, you've heard of Bitcoin treasuries, putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Well, this company, Starlink, instead of putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they decided to put Ethereum on their balance sheet instead. And their stock price collapsed 70%. It's not what you want. Only Bitcoin is real. They learned a hard lesson. And we're going to end with this video here. This is Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan. I think we're in the golden age of real world crypto. I actually don't think the 4-year cycle is relevant anymore. So this is the Bitwise CEO giving his thoughts in a 1-minute clip here on the 4-year cycle potentially, in his ideology and thoughts, no longer being relevant. So let's listen to him real quick.
Look, I think we're in the golden age of real-world crypto. I actually don't think the 4-year cycle is relevant anymore, so I'm against being on that. And I look at crypto, and I look at an industry where people have been asking where the real-world impact is, and you look over the last 4 years, and regulation just made that impossible. It scared entrepreneurs out of the space, and it suppressed product development. But the thing people don't realize is during those 4 years, the infrastructure continued to build, and it built at an exponential scale. And so now you have infrastructure that can really support worldwide financial activity. And all of a sudden, the dam has been unleashed. I think we're going to see real-world impacts at a much faster rate than anyone in the broad-based media expects, because it's been suppressed so long. It's a coiled spring. And so I'm really excited to see that come into the world, make the world a better place.
So that's the Bitwise CEO thinking that the 4-year cycle is over. It's, in my opinion, it's trending towards being a possibility. I talked the other day with Troy, who used to be on this podcast. R.I.P. Troy. I talked with Troy about thinking that we're probably about 75-25 at this point, that we don't have that altcoin season that everybody thinks we always have, that we're just going to have this, Bitcoin's going to continue to suck up the dominance because Bitcoin is the real true money. The shit coins are just doing shit coining things, are eventually going to trend to zero against Bitcoin. But, I leave that 25% out there that the retail will still come back in and money will still flow. We'll still get a parabolic top with Bitcoin, and these altcoins will still get some of the liquidity because people still like to gamble, still like to trade, and will rise some of these asset prices. So it's still possible. But I am leaning towards thinking that we might be done with the 4-year cycles, and we're just going to see Bitcoin, taking the stairs and maybe having a couple escalator moments, but like taking the stairs up as it ascends up to being properly priced as pristine collateral, pristine money. That's all we got for today. Thoughts and prayers out to everybody in the Middle East that's in Iran, in Israel, with all this craziness going on. I hope we have the least amount of casualties that we could potentially have. As always, like we always end this podcast, don't trust, verify. Thanks for watching. See you next week.